Brad Wenstrup, former chair of the House Subcommittee on COVID Origins and current member of President Trump's Intelligence Advisory Board, along with former State Department official and international lawyer David Tafuri and former senior Trump advisor Steve Cortez. Gentlemen, great to see you tonight. Thank you so much for being here. So, Brad, first your reaction to these documents being released by outgoing DNI Gabbard. We knew that Anthony Fauci was involved in some shady dealings to cover his own reputation and his job, didn't want to go to prison, but a lot of these documents shed more light on that.
They absolutely do. You know, when we did the select subcommittee on the pandemic, that was an unclassified version of everything that was going on. We didn't have any classified information in there. On the Intelligence Committee where I served, we did have more intelligence, and certainly what Director Gabbard has put out lends credence to what we've suspected all along, that there were so many within the agencies that were going to go along with this cover-up of the origins of COVID. So we not only were looking at the origins of COVID, then we started looking at the cover-ups. And you mentioned David Morin's, and he likely will go to jail, and there's others that will follow him. And it's really about time, and it's really sad that this has taken place, because the idea of truth and justice seems to have evaded so many within our intelligence community, and this is proof throughout it. And fortunately, she has taken this effort, and I will tell you that these documents and others are coming over to the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, where we will dig into so many of these things that we were denied getting. We really were being put off time and time again in getting the documents. So there'll be much to be revealed. There's more to follow for sure.
Yeah, Steve, it's been 6 years, which is crazy to believe, since the pandemic. And when these documents started coming out, there are emails showing Dr. Fauci trying to basically bully or intimidate scientists who were floating the lab leak theory early on by threatening to pull their funding, or if they changed their opinion that this didn't come from a lab, that it was coming from natural origins, that they would then get millions of dollars in grant money, because, of course, he was in charge of all of that for research in institutions across the country. So he was basically bribing people to steer away from the lab leak theory, because he was funding this in the Wuhan lab and other labs all around the world.
You know, Katie, no exaggeration, Fauci is the most monstrous and malicious figure in all of American history. Think of the damage wrought by him. So he lied, he criminally lied, perjured himself under oath to cover up the fact that he was secretly using our money to fund the very lab that created this epidemiological dirty bomb that was unleashed upon the world. And think about the further sequence. What did Fauci then do? Rather than trying to confront this concocted virus as a medical professional, instead, he launched a massive propaganda campaign to use fear and panic to compel the American people into submission to his ludicrous edicts, so that he could become effectively a dictator, at least for a time, over the United States. It's hard to think of a worst series of actions from a single individual in all of U.S. history. Dr. Fauci did more damage to this country. He caused more misery, more death, more financial catastrophe than any foreign adversary of this country has ever dreamed of inflicting upon the United States.
Well, and then he went out of his way to censor writers, reporters, and whistleblowers who dared to put accurate facts that were coming from the intelligence community about this being a lab theory, a lab leak on the internet. I mean, he worked with Facebook on the censorship industrial complex when it came to the truth about COVID, and a lot of that happened for years and years. But David, of course, this virus came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is in China. The Chinese Communist Party immediately covered this up, along with the World Health Organization. There's still been little to no accountability for China, and it's hard to know if they are still conducting this dangerous Frankensteining of viruses, because it's hard to know what the truth is, given how they cover things up.
I'm glad you asked me this. I think where we all have common ground is there's almost nothing more important than figuring out what were the origins of the COVID-19 virus, how did it pass into humans, And we have to know that and learn that and have certainty about it to avoid the next pandemic. Now, there's a big debate among scientists about where it came from. I know that the intelligence community is still not in agreement over whether it came from, an animal or it came from this lab. It did come from Wuhan. It did come from China. And the biggest party to blame for us not knowing more about the origins is China, because they obfuscated from the very beginning and they tried to hide where it came from, and they didn't allow any interviews of the people who were responsible in this lab, and they made it very difficult for anyone to figure this out. And unfortunately, that continues to this day. And so what I hope is that we can put more pressure on China to cooperate with us on an investigation that would allow us to get to the answer. And if China does not cooperate, there should be consequences for China.
So, David, just to follow up on that, go ahead.
This is a really important point, though. Is China culpable? Of course, massively so. I mean, they unleashed really a biological Pearl Harbor upon America and the world. However, we can't get past the fact that China was facilitated by Anthony Fauci, both in originating the virus itself and in then covering up that very cooperation. So we can't escape the fact that a very senior, very powerful American was hand in glove with the Chinese Communist Party in creating this havoc for the world. And then even worse, I believe, even worse than that, Fauci helped create a panic, a massive overreaction to that virus, which brought the global economy to its knees, which still has lasting damage until this day, for example, for children and their educational attainment. I mean, the ancillary effects just go on and on, the terrible, malicious ripples from these acts of treachery from Tony Fauci. So are the Chinese culpable? Of course they are. But I put Fauci on the exact same plane of guilt as the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, especially given he had a vested interest in making sure that it didn't come from a lab. And there's plenty of evidence in these documents to show that he, again, was pushing people around to change their opinion about it coming from a lab for the sake of maintaining their research dollars. And he controlled all of that. And people didn't want to lose their funding for what they were working on in institutions across the country. But Brad, in terms of what's in the future, David talks about preventing this from happening again. You also had DNI Gabbard talking about how they know there's 120 similar labs around the world with very little oversight, potentially doing this kind of dangerous gain of function research. So how can we be confident, and what can we do as the federal government in America to make sure there's oversight of these labs?
Well, that's just exactly right. What is the oversight? And so when you see a pause on research, a lot of people are having fits out of NIH. But it was at NIH, not under Jay Bhattacharya, but previously, it was at NIH that gave them this grant that Fauci signed and then told us that he just signs them. He doesn't decide whether they get the money or not. And so the process is obviously incredibly flawed. They went to DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, to try and get this funding. And they were denied because they said it was too risky. To what was said before, they were not only doing it, it was not only our taxpayers, we were doing this with the Chinese in the same city where they have their noted bioweapons lab, and they had been writing about coronaviruses as bioweapons for years. Mm-hmm. So we have to continue on our own, because we can't count on the WHO as long as it's part of the United Nations and China has control over it. We can't count on them. We have to do our own surveillance. We have to be out there willing to protect ourselves and maybe do that work with our allies. Yeah. It's a dangerous world out there, and we have got to be on top of the game, and we have to behave better and be honest and truthful. And I think what you see right now with the way NIH and Jay Bhattacharya is handling, for example, the Ebola virus, this is the way it's supposed to be done.
So, David, quick final word to you.
Well, I would just say Steve made a lot of allegations about Fauci. Steve seems to know more than anyone about where the coronavirus came from. I read the documents that Tulsi released, and I think it's really important that she released them. We tend to overclassify, and for transparency purposes, they should be out there. But I'm a lawyer. I didn't see a smoking gun in there that proves what Steve is saying, and there can be more investigations. Even though you can't prosecute Fauci, we can have investigations and we can show the evidence. So far, no one's been able to come up with conclusive evidence for any of the things that he accused Fauci of. And I think it's more important.
Are you trying to tell me that are you trying to tell me that it is a coincidence that the very virology lab which Fauci funded is literally hundreds of yards away from where the supposed wet market, from where the virus originates?
That's not what I'm not arguing with you about whether it came from the lab. I think that's an enormous coincidence, and it probably did come from the lab. But what you're doing is you're saying that Fauci committed crimes, and I think he may have disagreed with other scientists. They may have had reasonable disagreements. He may have been pushy and persuasive, but I don't see any evidence that he committed crimes.
Lying under oath in front of Congress is one crime, but I'm glad that, as you said, David, that we are getting this information. There is an overclassification problem, and the future of the country and the world, quite frankly, depends on this biolab work not getting out of control. Brad Wenstrup, David Teferi, and Steve Cortez, thank you for joining me. Great to see you.
Thank you.